This video is going to show you how to sew a simple t-shirt like this. So let's get started. Here are the front and the back pieces of the t-shirt. On the left, you have the back, and on the right, you have the front. The easiest way to tell them apart, the back has a shorter scoop and the front has a deeper scoop. Again, the back is on the left side and the front is on the right side. Here is the front piece unfolded. You can see it has a deep scoop for the front neckline of the t-shirt. Here is the back piece unfolded. You can see it has a shorter scoop where the neck is supposed to be. And here are the sleeve patterns. Again, there are two sleeve pattern pieces because there are two sleeves for your t-shirt. Okay, now we're ready to sew the shirt together. First, I've laid the front and the back piece on top of each other with the right sides touching, and I've pinned the two shoulder pieces together. We're going to sew a straight line across each shoulder seam. Now we're ready to sew the two shoulder seams together. We're going to use a 1/2 inch seam allowance for the seams. And the way I've measured that is I've lined the edge of the t-shirt with the edge of the presser foot. That will give me 1/2 inch seam allowance. Here you can see I have sewn the shoulder seam together with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And here is the other shoulder seam. Now we're going to move on to doing the sleeve. The first part of sewing the sleeve is creating the hem of the sleeve. Here you can see I've taken the bottom of the sleeve and folded it up about 1/2 inch, and I've pinned it in place. We're going to sew a straight line from the top to the bottom, and that will create the hem of the sleeve. Make sure you do this for both of your sleeve pieces. Here you can see I've placed the hem of the sleeve into the sewing machine, and I'm just going to sew a straight line from here all the way down to the bottom of the sleeve. Your sewing machine has a backstitch button, which is located right here. You can use it to start your sewing and then use the foot pedal to finish it off. You can see right here, I did a small backstitch and then I used the foot pedal to sew all the way down. This is going to be the wrong side of the sleeve, and this is going to be the right side of the sleeve. Any extra pieces of thread, you can cut them off. Next, we're going to sew the sleeve to the armhole that was created when we sewed the front and the back of the shirt together. I've laid them out so that you can see them. The wrong side of the shirt, or the inside of the shirt, is facing upward, and the wrong side of the sleeve is also facing upward. So we're going to pin these in place and we're going to sew. Here you can see I have pinned the sleeve to the armhole that was created by the front and the back t-shirt pattern pieces. Start in the middle with your pins and work your way down the left and the right side of the curve. You're going to sew from one side of the curve all the way around to the other side of the curve, and do this for both sleeves. Here you can see I've sewn the entire curve of the sleeve. Now we're going to sew the sleeve closed as well as sew the side seams of the shirt. Here is the side seam of the shirt. We're going to sew from the hem of the sleeve down to the seam of the sleeve and then down the side seam of the shirt. Here you can see I've pinned the hem of the sleeve, which is by the needle, and I've also pinned the seam of the sleeve, which is touching the side seam of the shirt. We're going to sew from here all the way down and then all the way down to the side seam of the shirt. Here you can see I've sewn from the hem of the sleeve all the way down to the side seam of the shirt. Make sure you do this on both sides. Now we're going to work on the neckline and the hemline. This is the neckline. We're going to do a folded neckline and hemline for our t-shirt. Take the neckline, fold it over about 1/4 inch, and sew around the front and the back. This is the shoulder seam. I folded it about 1/4 inch, And I'm going to sew from one side of the shoulder seam all the way around the neck to the other side. I've started to sew the neckline. As you can see, this is about 1/4 inch, and as you move along, just fold the neckline over and keep sewing. I've finished the neckline. You can see at the bottom, this is what the inside of your neckline will look like. And at the top, this is what the outside of your neckline will look like. Now we're going to do the hemline of the t-shirt. You can fold this up or down as long as you like, depending on how tall or short you are. For this, we're going to use 1/2 inch. Once you load the hemline into your machine, we're going to sew from one side seam all the way around the hem until you meet that side seam again. And now we have our t-shirt all sewn together. Make sure you turn your t-shirt right side out so that you can see what the final product will look like.